I brought you a cookie. I was wondering if you'd like to go out sometime?
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you.
Great, how about Friday?
The sound of breaking glass shattered the pre-dawn silence. Maria jolted awake, her heart pounding against her ribs as she instinctively reached across the empty space beside her. For a moment, disoriented by sleep, she expected to find him there. But Thomas had been gone for 3 years now, and the 3 children sleeping down the hall were hers alone to protect. If you're feeling moved by Maria's story already, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more heartfelt stories that remind us of the quiet strength that exists in everyday heroes. Maria slipped from beneath the worn quilt, her bare feet silent against the cold floorboards. The familiar weight of exhaustion clung to her shoulders as she moved toward the sound. It was just the picture frame, the one with Thomas in his uniform, smiling that carefree smile from before Afghanistan. The wind from the open window had knocked it over. As she picked up the shattered glass, a small cut opened on her finger, a bright bead of blood welling up in the dim light. She didn't flinch. After everything, what was one more small pain? Dawn was breaking over the small town of Millfield when Maria finally started the coffee maker. In 2 hours, she would wake the children, prepare breakfast, pack lunches, drop them at school, and then work a double shift at the diner. After that, she would pick up a few hours at the convenience store before collecting the kids from her neighbor's house. There would be homework to supervise, dinner to make, baths to give, and bedtime stories to read. Then, if she was lucky, a few precious hours of sleep before doing it all again. But Maria never complained. Not when the bills piled up and the roof leaked. Not when 8-year-old Emma had nightmares about her father never coming home. Not when 12-year-old Jason got into fights at school because the other boys called him the kid with no dad. Not when 4-year-old Michael, who barely remembered Thomas, asked why other children had 2 parents and he only had 1. The morning unfolded as it always did, a carefully choreographed dance of needs and time. Emma couldn't find her science project. Jason had outgrown his only pair of decent shoes. Michael refused to eat anything but cereal with the toy surprise at the bottom. Through it all, Maria moved with the patient determination that had become her hallmark. "Mom, why do you never get mad?" Emma asked suddenly, her small face serious as she watched Maria iron Jason's only dress shirt for his school presentation. Maria paused, the iron hovering above the collar. "I get mad sometimes, sweetheart. I just don't show it." "But why?" Maria set the iron down and knelt before her daughter. "Because being angry doesn't fix anything. It just makes more problems." What Maria didn't say was that she saved her tears for the shower, where the sound of water could mask her sobs. She didn't mention the nights she spent staring at the ceiling, calculating and recalculating how to stretch her paycheck to cover everything they needed. She never spoke of the crushing loneliness that sometimes made it hard to breathe. The diner where Maria worked was called the Blue Plate, a fixture in Millfield for over 50 years. The owner, Harold, was a gruff man in his 70s who had fought in Vietnam and recognized the look in Maria's eyes, the look of someone carrying on because there was no other choice. "You're late," he growled when she rushed in, her hair still damp from the quick shower she'd managed to take after dropping the kids off. "I'm sorry, Harold. Emma's science project." He waved her explanation away. "Table 6 needs coffee. And Marge called in sick, so you're covering her section too." Maria nodded, already tying her apron. She didn't mention that covering both sections meant she wouldn't have time to eat lunch. She didn't point out that this was the 3rd time this week Marge had called in sick, leaving Maria to pick up the slack. She simply got to work. By mid-afternoon, Maria's feet were throbbing, and she had spilled coffee on her only clean uniform shirt. A customer at table 9 had complained that his eggs were too runny, and another had left without tipping. Still, she smiled and called everyone honey or sweetheart and remembered which regulars took cream and which took sugar. "You know, you could complain once in a while," Harold said as she was preparing to leave for her second job. "Might make you feel better." Maria shrugged. What good would it do? Harold studied her for a moment. Your kids are lucky to have you. Maria thought about this as she walked the 6 blocks to the convenience store. Were her children lucky? They had lost their father. They lived in a small house that was always in need of repair. They wore second-hand clothes and rarely got new toys. But they were loved, fiercely, completely, without reservation. Was that enough? The convenience store was quiet, as it usually was during her shift. Maria restocked shelves, cleaned the coffee station, and rang up the occasional customer. Her mind wandered to the children. Jason had a math test tomorrow, she needed to help him study. Emma needed poster board for another project. Michael had a slight cough, she should pick up some children's medicine. When her shift ended at 7:30 p.m., Maria hurried to Mrs. Patel's house to collect the children. Mrs. Patel, a widow in her 60s, watched the kids after school for a reduced rate because she understood what it meant to raise children alone. They've had dinner, Mrs. Patel said, handing Michael to Maria. He was already half asleep, his small body warm against hers. Jason finished his homework, but Emma is struggling with her reading assignment. Thank you, Maria said, gathering their backpacks. I don't know what I'd do without you. Mrs. Patel touched her arm. You would find a way. You always do. The walk home was quiet, with Michael dozing on her shoulder and Jason and Emma trailing behind, whispering to each other. The night was clear, stars pricking the darkness above them. Maria remembered how Thomas used to point out constellations to Jason when he was small. The memory didn't hurt as much as it once had. At home, Maria settled Michael in bed and then sat with Emma at the kitchen table, helping her sound out difficult words in her reading book. Jason sat across from them, silently working on extra math problems. Maria noticed the dark circles under his eyes, so similar to her own. You should get some sleep, honey, she told him. You've studied enough. Jason shook his head. I need to get an A. Mr. Peterson said if I get all A's this semester, he'll recommend me for the advanced program next year. Maria understood what he wasn't saying. The advanced program could lead to scholarships, which were Jason's only hope for college. Her salary barely covered their basic needs, there was nothing left for savings. 15 more minutes, she said firmly. Then bed. After the children were asleep, Maria sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and the stack of bills she'd been avoiding. The electricity was past due, and Jason needed new glasses. The car was making a strange noise, and the property taxes were coming up. She spread the bills out, moving them around like puzzle pieces, trying to make them fit into her next paycheck. A soft knock at the door startled her. It was nearly midnight, no one ever came by this late. Cautiously, she approached the door, wishing Thomas's old baseball bat wasn't in the garage. Who is it? She called. It's Harold. Confused, Maria opened the door to find her boss standing there, looking uncomfortable. Is everything okay? She asked. Harold thrust a paper bag toward her. Leftover pie from the diner. Thought the kids might like it. Maria took the bag, touched by the gesture. Thank you. That's very kind. Harold shifted his weight. Listen, I've been thinking. My sister runs a catering business in the city. She needs help with weekend events, pays better than the diner. I told her about you. Maria blinked, surprised. I don't know what to say. Say you'll call her, Harold replied, handing her a business card. And say you'll still work at the diner during the week, because I can't run that place without you. After Harold left, Maria sat back at the table, staring at the business card. The extra money would help tremendously, but when would she see her children? She was already stretched so thin, missing so many small moments of their lives. That night, Maria dreamed of Thomas. They were sitting on the porch of a house they'd once talked about buying, a big farmhouse with a yard for the children to play in. In the dream, Thomas looked at her with those kind eyes she remembered so well. "You're doing great, Mare," he said, using his old nickname for her. "But you don't have to do it all alone." She woke with tears on her cheeks, the dream so vivid she could almost smell Thomas's aftershave in the air. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of her loneliness, the crushing responsibility of being everything to three small humans who depended on her completely. The next morning, as she was rushing to get everyone ready, Jason stopped her. "Mom," he said, his voice suddenly deeper than she remembered. "I can take Michael to his classroom. You don't have to walk us all in." Maria looked at her oldest child, seeing for the first time that he was no longer the little boy who had cried himself to sleep after they'd received the news about Thomas. He was becoming a young man, his father's determination evident in the set of his jaw. "Are you sure?" she asked. Jason nodded. "And I can help more around the house. I know you're tired all the time." Maria felt her throat tighten. "I'm fine, honey." "No, you're not," Jason said quietly. "But that's okay. We can help." That evening, instead of going straight to her second job, Maria called Harold's sister and arranged to work a catering event that weekend. Then she called Mrs. Patel. "I need a favor," she said. "Could you watch the kids this Saturday? I've been offered some extra work." "Of course," Mrs. Patel replied. "But Maria, may I suggest something? Bring the children here Friday night. Let them sleep over. Take some time for yourself before your new job." Maria's first instinct was to refuse. She never took time for herself. But Thomas's words from her dream echoed in her mind, "You don't have to do it all alone." "Thank you," she said finally. "I think I will." That Friday, after settling the children at Mrs. Patel's, Maria found herself with an evening entirely her own for the first time in years. She took a long bath, ordered takeout from the Chinese restaurant she loved but the children hated, and watched a movie without having to censor the content for young eyes. As she sat on her couch, eating lo mein straight from the container, Maria realized something important: taking care of herself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. She couldn't pour from an empty cup, as her mother used to say. The catering job was a success. Maria discovered she had a talent for organization and customer service that made her valuable in the high-stress environment of event catering. Harold's sister, Diane, offered her regular weekend work on the spot. "You never told me how capable your diner waitress was," Diane told Harold when he called to check how things had gone. "She raised 3 kids alone after her husband was killed in Afghanistan," Harold replied. "Never complained once. That kind of woman can handle anything." Over the next few months, Maria established a new rhythm. She worked at the diner during the week and catered events on weekends. The extra money allowed her to pay off the overdue bills and even start a small savings account. She accepted help more readily, from Jason, who took on more responsibility with his siblings, from Mrs. Patel, who insisted on having the children over regularly, and from Harold, who adjusted her schedule when school events came up. One evening, as Maria was helping Emma with a school project about heroes, her daughter asked an unexpected question. "Mom, are you a hero like Dad was?" Maria looked up from the poster they were decorating. "Your dad was a special kind of hero. He served our country." Emma frowned. "But you do brave things too. You take care of us all by yourself. You work 2 jobs. You never cry or get mad, even when bad things happen." Maria set down the glue stick she was holding and pulled Emma into her lap, though at 8, she was almost too big for such things. "I do cry sometimes," she admitted. "And I do get mad. I'm not perfect, Emma." "But you're still a hero," Emma insisted. "My teacher said heroes are people who do what needs to be done, even when it's hard." Maria thought about this as she tucked her daughter into bed that night. Was she a hero? She didn't feel like one. She felt like a woman doing the only thing she could do, putting one foot in front of the other, day after day, because 3 small people were counting on her. Yet as she looked around at their home, modest but clean, filled with homework projects and crayon drawings and the everyday evidence of 3 children growing up loved, she felt a quiet pride. They were making it. Despite everything, they were not just surviving but finding moments of joy and connection. The following Sunday, Maria took the children to the cemetery to visit Thomas's grave. It was something they did regularly, a way of keeping his memory alive, especially for Michael, who had been just a year old when his father died. As the children placed flowers on the grave, Maria stood back, watching them. Jason, now 13, stood tall and serious, his hand on Michael's shoulder. Emma knelt, arranging the flowers with care. Michael, at 5, was solemn in the way children can be when they sense the importance of a moment they don't fully understand. "We're okay, Thomas," Maria whispered. "We miss you every day, but we're okay." And they were. Not because it was easy, it never was, but because Maria had found strength she never knew she possessed. She had learned to accept help without seeing it as failure. She had discovered that allowing herself moments of rest made her a better mother. Most importantly, she had realized that by not complaining, by simply doing what needed to be done day after day, she was teaching her children the most valuable lesson of all, resilience. Years later, when Jason graduated from college, with a full scholarship, he gave a speech that brought the audience to tears. "My father was a hero who gave his life for his country," he said. "But my mother is a different kind of hero. She raised 3 children alone, working multiple jobs, never missing a school event, never letting us see how hard it was. She never complained, not once. Instead, she showed us through her actions what true strength looks like." In the audience, Maria listened with tears streaming down her face. Beside her sat Emma, now in high school and already talking about becoming a teacher, and Michael, who had his father's easy smile and his mother's quiet determination. Maria thought about the young woman she had been when Thomas died, terrified, overwhelmed, certain she couldn't do it alone. She wished she could go back and tell that woman, "You can do this. It won't be easy, but you're stronger than you know. And you won't always be alone." As the years passed, Maria watched her children grow into adults she was proud of. Jason became an engineer, Emma a kindergarten teacher, and Michael a paramedic. They all carried with them the lessons of their childhood, the value of hard work, the importance of family, and the quiet dignity of facing challenges without complaint. And Maria, who had spent so many years putting everyone else first, finally had time for herself. She took classes at the community college, traveled a little, and eventually opened a small cafe of her own. She never remarried, though there had been opportunities. Thomas remained the love of her life, but she had built a full and meaningful life without him. On Maria's 60th birthday, her children threw her a surprise party. Friends from throughout her life gathered to celebrate: Harold, now in his 90s but still cantankerous, Mrs. Patel, who had become like a grandmother to the children, co-workers from the diner and the catering company, neighbors who had watched the children grow up. Jason gave a toast that evening. "To our mother, who raised us alone and never complained. Who showed us that true strength isn't about never falling, but about getting up every time you do. Who taught us that love isn't just a feeling, but a choice you make every day." Maria looked around at the life she had built, not the one she had planned, but one filled with love and purpose nonetheless. She thought of all the nights she had lain awake, worried about the future. All the times she had wanted to scream or cry or simply give up. All the small sacrifices and large ones that had brought her to this moment. And she realized that not complaining hadn't been about denying her struggles. It had been about refusing to let those struggles define her or her children. It had been about choosing, each day, to focus on what they had rather than what they had lost. In the end, that choice had made all the difference. As the party continued around her, Maria slipped outside for a moment alone. The night was clear, stars scattered across the sky like diamonds. She thought of Thomas, as she still did every day, and imagined him looking down on the family they had created together. "We did it," she whispered to the stars.